Hello, everyone. I'm Buki Froelke. I am a woman in tech. I'm a former Olympic trial qualifier and Team USA member. I am a mother to two beautiful girls, so I'm Cece and MJ's mom. I have worked in education, international development, defense, and ed tech in the DC area for quite a long time. And I'm a Hoya, so Hoya Sass. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Angela Dingle. I'm the president and CEO of Nihilo. I'm a mom as well. I have 4 daughters and 1 son. Don't ask me what their ages are because I'm not going to tell you. I am a software engineer by training. I got into management very early on and ended up doing task leadership at an age that was so young I didn't even know how to manage the people I was managing. And I'm currently, my specialty is in cybersecurity and IT governance. As I mentioned before, I'm the author of a book called Discovering Your Girl Powers. And I founded a mastermind that goes along with that called The Power of the Pack.
Beautiful. Hi, everybody. My name is Dawn Myers, founder and CEO at The Most. The Most is a tech-enabled hardware company that produces appliances for Black women. Why is that important? That's important because there are literally a handful of Black women in hardware. And what does that mean? That means that physical products, the products that we actually interact with in our life, Black women, underrepresented groups aren't getting those products because it's so difficult for us to break into this space. Along the way, I saw how difficult it was for Black women, whether in hardware or any other vertical, to get funding. And so I started working with grassroots programs to help support Black women in particular in tech and fundraising. So I started at Startups Ignite, a small grassroots organization in Northern Virginia, then moved over to Black Girl Ventures. I'm sure most of you here are familiar with the illustrious Shelley Bell. And then graduated onto the Veneta Project, where we support more pre-seed, seed companies that are approaching their Series A and helping underrepresented founders and Black women at that stage grow.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to be here and answer all questions. So I'm going to kick it right off and ask you to tell us all about a challenge or challenges that you faced in your tech journey, and what did you do to get past it? Would you like to start?
Sure. I really enjoyed when we were thinking about what we were going to talk about today.
Yeah.
And the other speakers shared some stories that resonated so deeply with me and took me back to so many experiences that I had as an entrepreneur and a woman in tech. And I would say that the thing that I experienced that is the most triggering for me is that often in my career and ongoing in my career, I have to do 2 jobs. Mm-hmm. So the first job is my actual job. As a woman in tech, it is, configurations and GitHub repos and product management. And I love that. And I do it well. And then I have a second job. And it's actually managing the insecurities and biases of my male colleagues. Yeah. And so for me, that is one of the things that's most heavy on my heart. It is something that I want to see alleviated for every entrepreneur and woman and under-accessed community member that comes behind me. I want to see it alleviated because it's tough. It's tough to work 80 hours a week and then work another 40 hours a week. Yeah. Just managing insecurities and biases. Yeah. So I think that is the thing that has triggered me the most and sits on my heart often.
I heard some so I feel like people resonate.
I think the challenge that I've run into most often as an employee was pay equity. I had to do, much like my colleague here, I had to do so much more work to be recognized, and I was never paid fairly. I own my own company today because I was never paid fairly. My male counterparts always made more money than I did. People who were younger than I was and less experienced than I was always made more money. And the second part of that is that left me feeling like I needed to do more. Yeah. So I would do more and still be paid less, and do more and still be paid less. And that has even resonated into business, and I'm certain we'll get a little bit into talking about what we need, and I'll share that with you when I start talking then.
You know, my whole kind of raison d'etre in this area is fundraising, right? But it's not the fundraising itself. It's the kind of confidence and the lack thereof around Black women founders. You know, it's been really disheartening for me. You know, we're funded now, we're venture backed, but we only got that funding when I brought my white presenting male GC into those meetings. When I trained him to say the exact same words that I was saying, then we get the check cut. That's infuriating. And it's very difficult to continue that journey, right? As you guys know, with startups, 40% of your time is spent fundraising, and it's very difficult for us to invest the way that we are investing. Many Black women in this space, we're not getting funded, right? So we're selling our homes, we're selling our cars, we're liquidating our assets to keep our companies afloat. And for us to make these incredible investments of time and effort, and then watch your very well-meaning, very capable, but nonetheless, white male presenting counterpart get the credit is very difficult. So there are a bevy of issues, but I think they all come down to, when you look at me, do you see my worth? When you look at me, do you see what I'm capable of? When you look at me, do you see a capable founder capable of growing a company? Or what are you seeing, right? And so it's been very difficult to kind of unpack that with stakeholders in the space and figure out, okay, where's that disconnect? Why aren't you able to see what I've done and see our worth and see what we're capable of building?
Thank you for that. I also heard more, write those things down. We need it on the board. If it's tweetable, tweet it. So thank you for sharing that. The next thing that I would love to ask you is, you shared your moments of challenges, and I felt your hearts, and I can still feel that that you carry it with you. I would ask you to go back to those moments and share with us, what would you have needed in that moment to get past it, now that you have gotten past that point?
I'll just jump in and start. From a career standpoint, I needed someone who was in my corner. I mean, I talk about it now and I say I needed a sponsor, right? You need someone who's speaking about you when you're not in the room.
Yeah.
Because decisions are being made about you and your career and which opportunities and which projects, which key projects, which assignment you get to, which person you get to work, which technology you get to work with. All those decisions are being made behind closed doors. And if you don't have someone who knows you and believes you and is willing to speak up for you. Yeah. So I had plenty of people who believed that I could do it. That's why they kept giving me more and more of the work. Yeah. But would speak up for me and say, why don't we give this opportunity to Angela? Yeah. Now that she's done it, why don't we pay Angela some more money for having done that particular thing? So I'd say having a sponsor or someone to speak on your behalf, and even as we talk about now, being business owners and founders, the exact same thing. I need someone to say, let's partner with Ex Nihilo.
That's right.
Let's give Ex Nihilo an opportunity, because we've seen your work. You know that we do great work, but really to have someone that would be willing to do that.
I second that. Okay.
I would say for me, I would love to have had leadership that valued perspective and innovation over network and comfort. I remember a quote that I came across, and it literally changed my life. I really like to be comfortable, like safe, like in a safe place with whatever I was experiencing, whether it was tech or athletics. And I came across this quote, and it said, discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. Mm-hmm. It is the idea that when you block perspective, you're actually leading your innovation to a dying place, right?
That's
because
right.
Perspective is what opens the doors to innovation. Yeah. It's the idea that if you have all of these different colliding, sometimes, concepts and perspectives, that's where you find the best idea. Yeah. And so there's this myth that, when you come into a room and everyone looks the same and you look different, your perspective is like the least valuable. Yeah. But it's a lie. It's absolute deception. In fact, your perspective is the most valuable because now you've added a viewpoint that others haven't had before. And you've changed the trajectory of whatever project or program or product that you're building. And in tech, when you do that, you can scale a product and a culture at rapid pace. So for me, I would say that what I was missing was someone who said, I value the perspective and innovation in this room more than hoping that the person next to me looks like me and comes from the same background as me. No. I think that the innovation is the most valuable thing in this space, and I'm not afraid to prioritize it through my people. And so that is what I would say I needed, and I'm hoping to see.
I second it. I hope we see it as well. Dawn?
Yeah, very succinctly, deference. I would have loved to have seen more deference. It comes in the form of, again, not having to pass off my words to someone who looks different than me in order to get credence. It comes in the form of, often in these meetings, I'm the only person who's ever manufactured and launched new technology, and yet I'll have a VC who's never done that thing question me on manufacturing or logistics or what have you. I run a company that focuses on the needs of Black women, specifically with respect to their hair. And I'll have someone sitting across from me who doesn't have any hair questioning me about what that process looks like. I think it really comes down to, for me, what I would love to see is more deference, right? When you have someone sitting across the table who clearly has the experience, who clearly has shown their capability, give them the respect, really, of, respecting their opinion.
I feel that wholeheartedly. So now that you've shared some of the challenges and things that you've needed, I want to ask you all, the challenges that you face, they've obviously made you stronger. Did you build your foundations that you stand on because you went through the challenges, or did you already have what motivates you within you before you faced them? Tough question.
That's tough.
Try.
I'm going to give this one a stab.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. On this panel, we're all Black women.
Yes.
And as founders in the space, our experiences as people necessarily inform our experiences as founders, as entrepreneurs. And the fact of the matter is, things don't start getting hard for you when you get into tech.
I agree.
Right? Like we've always had to overcome the obstacles, whether that's in academia, in our personal relationships, you name it. There are always those struggles, right? And so in many ways, a lot of my training to become an entrepreneur was kind of facing those struggles, beforehand. So it's a little bit of both, right? Do I think that I'm kind of have some seed of natural talent that makes me, particularly great at my job? Sure, there's a little bit of that, but there's also, years, decades of, kind of going through these motions in lots of different contexts that make me particularly prepared to address them here.
My counterpart in Chicago says that she's like paranoid, so she always has to
Absolutely.
like super prep to get through things. I'll cut you off. Sorry.
I'm going to agree. I was a child of God before I became a software engineer. And that is literally what got me through. I was just sharing with her mom that I used to keep a Bible in my desk that was about the size of this name tag. And I literally would be praying before I went to a meeting with my boss or went to discuss a technical issue. I had a scenario, and I'll try to be brief, where I knew that we were making a mistake in the way that we were designing some technology. I knew it deep in my soul. I was the youngest person. I was the only woman of color. I was the only person of color in the room with Top Guns from all over the country. And I kept saying, we're making a mistake. And it finally got to the point where my boss looked at me and said, shut up. We don't want to hear it anymore. Be quiet. A year later, $1 million later, we had to fix that problem. I knew that. And so when you asked, did I have those things? I had that foundation of knowing that Jesus loved me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Far before I became a software engineer. And it helped me to, we were talking about being gracious. It helped me to keep from just losing my mind when I would be completely disrespected, or people would just disregard my opinion or disregard my technical expertise. So I had that foundation, but what I've been through has made me the person I am today. So it's made me stronger. It's made me more resilient. it's made me more determined that I'm going to be successful, and I don't care how many years that it takes to get there, because I know that I can.
Yeah.
So it's that combination of both, of having had some strong foundation when my white male counterpart said to me, "You don't know how to dress." Well, I didn't believe that, because my father worked for the Pentagon and my father taught me how to dress when I was 15 years old. So no, you're not telling me the truth, right? So it's this combination of things that you had as you were growing up, and being able to recall them and use them to your advantage so that you can continue to succeed.
I call that my toolkit.
Yeah.
So I would say that it is the women occupying this space that are banging the doors down.
Yeah.
And I'm watching them and I'm like, oh my God. Like if they can do this, then I have to hold on. Like
Yeah.
I have to join hands and continue to bang the doors down. We talk about this idea of, the shattering of the glass ceiling.
Yeah.
And, I used to have this image in my mind of like standing under a glass ceiling and like punching through it and it shattered. And the more I watched women like Ayanna and Angela and my mother, I realized that the image was off. It was completely flawed. It was actually, it was women in a cement block 100 meters away from this glass ceiling. And I said, oh my God, like we've got to chip away first before we can even punch. And so when I see that, that is what keeps me going. It's funny, my mom is here with me. And when I was younger, she wrote a book. She was a professor. And she wrote a book and she went and she would speak. She would often be the only Black woman in the room. And she would take me with her. I mean, she would pull me out of school and she said, you're going with me. And I remember in high school, I said, Mom, if I ever get a chance to speak, I'm going to take you with me. And since then, she comes to all of my speeches, but it's crazy because I watched her. I watched the way she talked. I watched the way she laughed. I watched the way she interjected, right? And I came into this room and I spoke to Angela, and my heart was so big hearing everything that she had been through and what she has persevered through. And my mom said to me, she said, Buki, if you don't connect with Angela, I don't know how to help you. I don't know how to help you. And it is the same with Ayanna. I watched Ayanna banging the doors down in the DMV for so long. It is that. It is these women who have said, I press reject. I've had to press this reject button my whole life, and I will continue to press it until the ceiling is shattered. And I'm like, okay, well, I've got to bang cement.
Ayanna's my vessel as well, so shout out to you.
I'm just on the floor here taking notes.
You are the vessel for many of us in this room. So, thank you for starting this. Isn't it Maya Angelou that says, like, when you come into a room, you come with everybody that you've ever experienced.
That's right.
You come with your grandfather, everybody. So I love that you physically brought your mother. So we talked about the challenges, they have shaped you. In the moments that you face currently, how do you maintain or pull from a source to keep the energy going to build trust in this ecosystem? Because I know it's a day-by-day thing.
I have to start by piggybacking off of Angela and my faith. My God, my faith, it has been one of the reasons why I will not give up. And I watched it be a reason for many, many women before me, many people of color before me, many women of color, many Black women, right? And so I think my faith is a huge chunk of why, we keep going. It's that faith that says that if the doors have been broken down before, then they can be broken down again. And it sits in your heart and your mind and your thoughts. And when things get so heavy and so tough, you go back to it. And so I think my faith for me has been one of the biggest things that keeps me going. So thank you, Angela, for opening the doors.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So faith is it for me as well. I wake up in the morning. I have a pretty formal morning routine, and today I got out a little bit earlier than I normally would, but it's really important for me to go through that process of praying and putting on the whole armor of God. And it's a belief that my talents and abilities, God gave those things to me. I have to give them back. I believe that I need to leave a legacy of wisdom, wealth, and wealth, and wellness. And so what I do from a technology standpoint, and what I do in my mastermind, and what I do when I'm sitting in a room of just this amazing people, is really what I feel like God has called me to do, and I'm not finished yet, or he's not finished with me yet. So I just have to keep on going until he tells me that I'm done. That's what gets me up. Every time somebody is kicking me or something doesn't work, I just go, God has a purpose for my life, and it really doesn't matter what man says. I just have to keep going. So that's what gets me up. Sometimes I'm dragging, but I get on up and get back up and do it again.
For me, it's two things. Look, I'm a lawyer by training, and so
You do that too?
once upon a time.
Sheesh.
And so, look, I've trained, right, to take the emotion out of it and look at the facts. And being in this space can really kind of get you in your feelings. It can really have you feeling like, can I do this? I mean, I have had male VCs sit me down and tell me verbatim, you are going to fail. There is no way that you are going to get funding for this. There is no way that you're going to be able to get a team to back you on this. And the only way that you get through conversations like that is, by looking at the facts, right? I've done impossible things before. So there's nothing stopping me from figuring this impossible thing out. So that's the first thing, is looking at the facts, looking at the team, looking at our progress, and focusing on the real things, not the emotions, not the opinions, not the extraneous things, not the noise. The other thing that has brought me through is other Black women. So you see, we've met once before this on Zoom, and there's already a
Just whole
sisterhood.
love fest going on here.
Yeah, it's the power of Black women to support us is a real magic. And I can tell you that, it's the Black women who have brought me into the space. Shelly Bell. I met Shelly one time. She saw something, brought me into her organization. I learned the things, blossomed. She put me into my next role. It's the Arlen Hamiltons who don't even know that they are inspiring another generation of makers. I had this really amazing moment some months back where I was in a room with Arlen Hamilton, is a virtual room with Arlen Hamilton, Ania, who she funded. Now, Ania went on to do a lot of really amazing things, but the first thing that she did was she built a hardware company. And Ania, supported me throughout my journey, taught me the ropes, taught me, everything that she did wrong, really gave me that time that nobody else was giving me. And it was this really amazing full circle moment. And every opportunity that I've had to really break through, they've come from these amazing Black women who have seen that thing in me that I'm trying to get, that I'm struggling to get, that I'm screaming at the top of my lungs to get the rest of the ecosystem to see. So it's those two things. Take the emotions out of it and rely on the resources that you do have. And Black women are such a rich resource.
Thank you for that. I want to piggyback off something you spoke about, you having sponsors then pulling you up. So I want to ask you all about, how do you choose who you bring along in your journey? Because I'm pretty sure there are people that are early on in their journey looking at you the same way that you look at the people that you just spoke about.
That's right.
So, would you like to start?
Sure. So I want to also piggyback off of what Dawn said, because when we were on a Zoom together, it was magical. I was like, Dawn said something. I was like, that's Dawn. I was like, can you see my hands in my box? Dawn.
I was thinking the clapping hands on the Zoom.
So I think that in this space, it's not necessarily that you choose who comes with you, but we're all moving together. Even when we don't realize it,
Like
right?
magnets.
Like magnets. If we have the same purpose and the same mission and the same belief and the same faith, then you start to congregate, and move collectively. And you'll feel it. You'll feel the orbit. You'll feel someone in your space, and you'll be on a Zoom and be like, yes, Dawn and Angela, and you'll say, thank you, Ayana, and you'll start to feel all of this energy and this pulse come together. And when that happens, don't be afraid to say yes. That is the moment where it hits you like a light bulb, and you're like, I have to say yes to this moment. It doesn't matter what is going on. It doesn't matter if I had a meeting. It doesn't matter if I had the most important meeting in the world. No, to that moment and yes to this one. And so I'd say that it's not necessarily what we're choosing, but we're moving collectively and collaboratively. And when your stars collide, say yes.
I love that. Thank you.
For myself, I don't necessarily choose either.
Okay.
Having been through what I've been through, and having done so in the Washington metropolitan area, we have such a facade here. DC is a very political city.
Yeah.
You meet people, and there's always one of the first questions, and I'm certain you guys have experienced this too. One of the first questions that you end up receiving, especially in technology, is questions bold enough to ask you how much money you make or who you work for. What it's all of these things that kind of gauge and try to put you into a box. And so as it became clear to me that people were looking to me as a role model or as a mentor or as someone they just wanted to be able to spend some time with, and I'll tell you a funny story that just popped into my head. I spoke at a conference in the Bahamas a few years ago, and after all the formal proceedings were over, we had kind of like a little pajama party, paint and sip party. And I had a glass of wine, and there was a young woman who came to sit beside me. Now, she's in tech. I didn't know this. She's freaking brilliant, right? She comes and she sits next to me and she goes, "I cannot believe I'm sitting next to you." So we start talking or whatever, and I'm still kind of clueless that she really has this sense that she should be talking to me. And all of a sudden it clicked for me. She's serious and I need to pay attention to her. And so in my life, not everyone that I've said those words to was paying attention to me. So now, like I said to you, let's make sure that we talk about synergies. I mean those words. I mean, when we have a conversation, I start typing what you're saying. I write down what you've said so that I can really, really try, even if it's only to give you a phone call and say, "How are you doing today?" I really try to give back in that way. And it's something that I think we have to be intentional about. And so when I meet a new business owner, I just like, "Here, you can have this, and let me show you how to do this, and let me show." And sometimes it doesn't come back positive. Sometimes people don't receive that very well, but I still give in that way, and I don't pick and choose. I mean, I just think women have girl power, and I try to share my girl power.
I love that.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is grit and resilience. When I see a young person who wants to break into tech or who wants to work in startups, they may not have the technical background, they may not have worked in manufacturing or logistics before, but all of that is teachable. What's not teachable is that incredible zeal, that incredible ability. If you don't know the thing, will you sit and read the articles and read the books for the next month so that you can get up to speed? So when I see that, and particularly when I see that in Black women, I try to not just bring them into my organization, but extend all of the kind of perks that I think have been kind of missing in our ecosystem, right? Things like not only teaching folks about equity, but extending them equity so they can, think about how a company is valued, so they can think about how their time is valued, so that they can start to kind of build wealth for their own families. I think a lot of folks in this space, and we're not exempt, right? I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's really, I think, quite salient. I think a lot of us have been almost self-selected, right? Those of us who have been able to move up in this space have probably come through a very particular academic path. We've probably gone through a very particular corporate path. And there's a very specific kind of underrepresented person, and more specifically, a very specific kind of Black woman who makes it in that space. And so it's the case that sometimes we absorb some of those biases. We absorb some of those ideas about what a capable person is supposed to look like, what they're supposed to dress like, how they're supposed to walk, how they're supposed to talk. And so, breaking out of that, and I've had to do some of that work myself to make sure that I'm not overlooking an incredibly talented person because they don't fit some kind of bill that we've been socialized to recognize as capable, and extending that person who may not look like it but has it, and extending that person equity and a deep education into venture and fundraising and what it is to build a company and build wealth for yourself. That's really important to me.
All right. So we're going to shift into question and answering, but before we go, can you tell everybody how to find you?
So if you want to find me, feel free to follow Share Amplify Now on any social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Feel free to follow, and then find me on LinkedIn as well, Buki Catherine Froelke.
I am on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. It's Angela C. Dingle, or Ex Nihilo is the name of the company, EXNIHILO. It's a Latin word that means created out of nothing, as in God created the world out of nothing. You can find information about me in the book at discoveringyourpowers.com.
I love that name.
Thank you.
You can find me, my company's name is The Most, and all of my handles, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, are Dawn Does The Most. Also, I've got a very cool little card here that I've been trying out with some of you that allows you to kind of download all of my information. So I'm more than happy to extend this to anybody who wants it. But I wanted to note that this company, Fewer Cards, is run by a Black man. So if you're interested in getting something similar, you should check it out.
I'm going to open the floor for questions. Does anybody want to start?
Just one or two. We just only have time for one or two.
I got you. 2 questions. Who are the 2 lucky people? I would love.
Question, a little random, but I'm always interested when I meet interesting women. What is fueling you? What are you reading? What are things that you read daily, or any books that you're reading now that you're inspired by?
I'm reading The Alliance right now for the 2nd time. It's a great kind of manual for thinking about hiring and team building in a way that's mutually beneficial for both your company and your employees.
I'm reading 3 books. I belong to 2 book clubs, and then I read just personally. I'm reading You Are What You Risk by Michelle Wilker. I'm also reading Power Manifesting, and I'm reading, we're starting, so I have a book club with my mastermind. We are reading The Go-Giver.
Oh, I love that book.
Yeah, it's a good book. I've read it before, but it's for the folks that are in my mastermind. So.
Once upon a time,
Right.
I used to read. I used to read Shattering. Lately, I've been reading
okay, is that a
Shady
book?
Baby. I've also been reading. What is the Sesame Street one that CC likes? You know the one I'm talking about. I'm reading a lot of children's books to my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old. Shady Baby has been the favorite for 3 to 4 weeks and running. Thank you to their godmother, Yamiche, for buying that. They love it. So, but once upon a time, I did read cool things, and Shady Baby is a fan favorite. So.
One more question.
First off, great. I love the synergy. I love the foundation, especially with the spiritual foundation. That's very, very key. My question is, what would you tell your younger self 10 years ago now? What would you tell your younger self that really keeps you motivated, but not to also give up?
Well, man, I would have a whole conversation with that lady.
I would too.
I think I would tell her to, just like I was telling you guys before, take the emotion out of it. I think in my younger years, I was very bothered by, very affected by folks' opinions, right? That boss who a little bit harder on you than they are on other people, but you don't really, it's hard to kind of put your finger on why. That person who told you that starting a business, getting out of legal, that's crazy, don't do that, right? I'd be very emotionally kind of invested in other people's opinions. So I think I would tell her to start to do some work to lay other people's opinions aside and focus on you and what you need.
That's so true.
I think I would have a long conversation with myself as well. The thing that I've learned that you kind of know, but you don't internalize it, or you don't become intentional about it. You are what you believe. If you believe that you can, you will. And if you believe that you can't, you won't. And very often other people's opinions about me cause me to believe that I could not. I had a male colleague tell me that I would never be successful because I'm too honest, that I like to tell the truth too much. Really? Not. Right, just not. So I would have that conversation because I can tell you that now because it has stayed with me, right? He said those things, and every once in a while you get into a difficult situation and you go, well, maybe you shouldn't tell the truth. Yeah, maybe you should tell the truth, right?
Yeah.
If I could talk to my younger self, I would tell my younger self, your time will come.
That's a good one.
You know, the first company that myself and another Black woman, we co-founded, it was an ed tech company focused on online learning and education in 2011. And everyone we talked to said we will never need online education. The education system is set up for people to go to school. It's not needed. Why would you focus on this? We banged on every door, and you know, eventually we gave up. We were able to hit 5 figures in our first 90 days to get a proof of concept. We were told there was all this like formula. You needed an MVP and you needed a proof of concept and you needed to show that you had this proof of concept. And every time we'd say, here's the proof of concept. And we didn't get funded. I'd like to give you a spoiler alert. We did not get funded. And maybe we wouldn't have solved the online learning problem. Or maybe we would have had a 10-year head start, headed into COVID. We'll never know because we didn't get a chance. And then the next company that I founded was an online fitness company, a hardware-software combination, where people would work out in their homes.
Look at you in the future. You have basketball.
And every VC that we met with said people will never work out in their home. Why would they work out in their home? There's gyms everywhere, And maybe we would have been the next Peloton. Maybe we wouldn't have, but we'll never know. But I'll tell my younger self this: your time will come, because it's not about what you do; it's about how you do it, right? It's about how you are opening the doors for anyone that comes behind you. And so I think your time will come.
Thank you. All right, well, ladies, thank you for your time and your space.